Reviews start with Ghost, of course. Where else? The record Impera is out. We were expecting this in 2021. We had talk back in the end of 2020 of a Ghost album appearing over winter, and we went, seems justified now. He was also saying it was going to be darker and heavier than Prequelle, which, having got this, just confirms that I think I need to stop putting too much stock in what Tobias says about his records in advance.
You want to trust him, because again, it's like he's not talking out his ass. He is the guy who was in Repugnant. So it's like when he says it's got to be darker and heavier, he knows what that sounds like. But what a fucking naughty little lad.
Yes, Ghost are at the kind of the pinch me stage of it for a long time fan of them, where they've always felt like a big deal, but the different stages of levels of what kind of big deal have gone from underground sensation to potential new rising stars to here where we're at fucking business time. Like, to cast my mind back to the release of an album like Melodic, approaching 7 years ago now, madly, I was so hyped going into that record, and it was a huge talking point in the media and all of that, but constantly adjusting where Ghost are in your mind is like, they played Coco in London immediately after that record came out. I had to remind myself for this, that when Prequelle was first released, we were going, I wonder if this will be the record that could push them to arena status in the UK. I won't put all my eggs in one basket, but I sure do hope so. And now, that seems absurd. Of course it was arena status for them. All bets are off for Ghost now. They smashed arenas on Prequelle. Their momentum seems endless. They have the most merch, I would say, that you spot out on just like everyday people in the street than any rock band of their generation. They appeal to people young and old who don't even actively keep up with new upcoming rock music in a big way. More people love Ghost than is goddamn normal for our bands. And so, looking at the follow-up to Prequelle, which did all that for them, this is where we are looking for Ghost to truly go for the big time, right?
Yeah, this is the crossroads of do they step up and do they become one of just like the proper legit titans of modern rock music? Like, they've been threatening it for a while now, and this feels like this is the album that needs to be the moment that stamps them as legit megastars in rock and metal.
I mean, to be fair, that moment should have come on Prequelle. It's criminal that it that it didn't. I put down their kind of slow progression just down to the fact that they haven't actually toured that much in the UK, on the back of their own stuff, actual headline tours. Because when you look at mainland Europe and Scandinavia, they've been, everything's fucking big in Germany, isn't it? But they've been a lot bigger there than in the UK, and it seems come on, just do it. Just let them do it. Let them headline down low. Give them all the stuff, because I don't know. I don't know if I just sound like a massive simp, but I feel like they were ready on Prequelle.
This came out last week. We've had it for a little while longer than that, but observing last Friday, knowing that we would be talking about it today, Ghost release day, with how many people are on board with them now, is kind of lovely. Even with the fact that no band attracts as many, wow, I don't get it, I don't, not metal, I need everyone else to know that I do not get Ghost attention seekers like them. But there's still something a little bit celebratory about this. They are currently battling for their first UK #1 album with this. They were #2 in the midweeks. Hopefully when this goes out, we will have the news that they've done that. That would be fucking brilliant. They have been going for, you say that they were ready for a long time. In terms of my personal love for this band, I agree. But they have been going for increasing plays for the mainstream musically with each album. Prequelle, when it came out, considering the shift from Meliora into it, it felt like excess. Here's Dance Macabre, here's an instrumental with a big saxophone solo that we're going to play at every live date on this tour, and those things are true, but in hindsight it's also moodier, and it has quite a number of somber ballads, and it does have 2 prog instrumental tracks. And when there was definitely a divide that came there with that kind of losing some of the occult atmosphere of old, we spoke about with that with Prequelle on this podcast, and you can fill in the gaps there for yourself when it comes from going from that, which was still a moody Plague album, into this one, whether that's true or not. But this album, Impera, is fucking ridiculous. It's absolutely preposterous. This is, if Prequelle had the first real go for broke moments of that, but as I said, as an album, was decently somber and had these kind of other things going on. This is the front to back, overblown radio rock ghost push that we've been expecting. Sam, you were saying back when we were theorizing about what this album could be, that's basically exactly what you wanted, an album of their, like, you know, festival standards.
Yeah, I wanted Ghost to go big. I wanted an album of square hammers, essentially, like, and it's kind of what they've delivered. It's still not exactly that, because, like, you're right, this album is mental at points. There is so much going on in this record, but at its core, they have just gone, okay, let's just write a bunch of massive, like, 80s inspired rock anthems. This is like a proper throwback to the kind of mental rock, like, epic rock albums of the 80s, like 70s and 80s. It really is that kind of vibe on this record.
Yeah, when we thought that fucking Hunter's Moon was just a standalone Halloween Kills single, we said when it came out, it was like, oh, it kind of sounds like it's a continuation of those things with Prequelle. And when you look at, you know, the Dance Macabres of that world, that does make sense. But it makes all the more sense when you look at the rest of the songs that have come since, and it's like, okay, it's that, but fully and even more dedicated to fucking rivers of champagne and fireworks going off and all of that. And of course, a song that was following the lead of such preposterous glam metal horror movie soundtrack songs as Dream Warriors and Man Behind the Mask was gonna lead the way for an album like this.
Yeah. I mean, you could talk for ages about how it is, like, indebted to things like Whitesnake and Poison and, like, fucking, like, Def Leppard, like, especially, like, how they wrote it. Like, Tobias was just like, yeah, I just copied how they wrote Hysteria, but, like, for the whole album, like, that's just what I did. And it's like, yes, that is true, but it still sounds like Ghost, but just being like stupidly huge. Like, these are, like you're saying, Sam, about Square Hammer, you want an album of Square Hammers, pretty much that. I mean, there are, like, a couple of songs I'd maybe cut if I was being, like, super harsh, just to make it, like, a ridiculous, like, tight 35 minutes, but overall it is, like, it's stupid. It's so good, it's so big.
Yeah, I think when you said the Square Hammer thing, and then you mentioned the Def Leppard thing, I think some of the songs act in different ways to Square Hammer, but the ethos there of just what we're saying of, like, big bombast, you want these songs to fucking grab as many people as possible, that is what they've done for this record. And it's so preposterous, again, the word, it comes back to it, which is something we've always loved about Ghost, but they've continued to go for that. I think there are some interesting ideas going on with the theming of this album, which comes out more explicitly in some tracks than others, but the talk from Tobias was very much like, you know, we've done this 14th century plague thing, and now we are going into a time of empires and corruption and industrial takeover, and that's all very good, but sonically, with that, how cranked up every bit of grandeur and opulence is. The intro track sounds like them writing their start of Battery, but instead of brutal teeth-gnashing thrash metal that it kicks into, it's fucking I didn't even know that Tobias could sing that high. It'd be interesting to see the song live, but holy shit, this is jubilant. No Ghost album has ever started that on 10. It's so OTT.
The Imperium sort of opening, it's like this, like, theatrical overture, just setting the scene. It's so grand. It's this instrumental piece that just pulls you right into the world of bombast that is Impera, and then how it goes into Kaiserian with those guitars and that scream letting out, and it's just kind of like joyful, exuberant, like, explosion of just, like, heavy metal glee is just brilliant.
I actually laughed when that came in. I was like, oh my god, he's done the thing. Like, and it's just a thing. It is so, like you're saying, overblown, just completely, like, excessive. And the song is about a pagan being murdered for her beliefs by Christians, and it's like, it's so toe tapping.
Yeah, it's like fucking Temple of Love by Sisters of Mercy channeled through fucking Bat Out of Hell. Like, it's an evolution of that overblown 80s rock thing that they were doing last time out. Like, it's all pace for once, but it's all, you know, major key, explosive, euphoric. It's given that kind of, you know, reverence within the Church of Ghost feel with that, you know, ascending choir part, the like fucking, while the song just rushes through, you know, that sense of history that it's talking about. It's fucking tremendous. The production on this album is less and less, we cited this with Prequelle, I would say it's even more so this time, less gritty heavy metal, and all the more pop blockbuster. There's not a lot of kind of low end or depth. It's all very far forward. It feels like it's kind of mastered for radio and not the kind of atmosphere of old, which, whether you kind of prefer one of those things or the other with Ghost is very much down to personal kind of discernment. It sounds like, you mentioned Hysteria, it sounds like a modern Swedish pop producer, which is who it is, but they're someone like that doing their equivalent of the Hysteria style production jobs of old, that kind of, again, opulence, and it does also make the moments of much, they're becoming rarer, they are more few and far between, but when Watcher in the Sky gives you a gnarly, like, bass thudding riff, it's all the more welcome and goes off a treat, while, not feeling out of place in this record, because it's still huge, stadium commanding arena metal that's got that searchlight, like, blasting over it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same guys who did Meliora, and it's Claes Orland producing, who's done Katy Perry and like the Sugar Babes, but it's Andy Wallace mixing, who is, who's done everything. He did Fortitude last year, he did Nevermind. So it's a thing, it's like you've got a guy who knows how to make massive pop songs, and also someone who literally did Nevermind. Like, I think it's a really good mixture of balancing, just stuff that actually sounds pleasing to the ear and just doesn't sound crap. And, oh no, we actually do want something that rock fans will actually like and enjoy, and not just, apart from maybe the people who are like, wow, Opus Eponymous or nothing. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good balance, for me anyway.
I think that balance is spot on, because it is an album that still rocks. It's still got enough, like, guitars driving, you've got those heavy metal leads coming in all over the place. It's not an album that's kind of just like, clinical, like, sort of sterile pop music, which, like, when you have these massive modern pop producers, you can sometimes risk that. It still sounds like a big rock band playing, like, plugged in, but it's just got that level of just like scope and like grandeur that you can only get by working with like the biggest or pop producers.
Yeah, it's just with Prequelle, we did speak about it being kind of a less insidious sounding record, not necessarily less catchy, but less insidious. And I would say that's, again, in hindsight, even more so here. But all throughout, there is this, Queen Steinman rock opera quality to like how big it goes, and it feels not even as centrally focused on like the Square Hammer thing of having that one big chorus. This, like you said, the Hysteria approach, so many hooks per song rather than even having like a central one. Kaiserian has so many melodic hooks in it, from vocals to guitars to organs. Spillways, they have written their fucking Abba come Blue Oyster Cult come Don't Stop Believin' fucking song. It starts exactly like Sinful Love by BOC. It has Bon Jovi backing vocals with the kind of genuine Journey AOR guitars in it as well. Like, listen to that solo section, and it just has so many hooks within it.
Spillways is just like magnificent. When you get the second chorus coming in, and you get "It's the cruel beast."
The chorus,
when you've got the drumming
increasing
like,
in scale and intensity with each line. Brilliant.
Yeah, and I love it when they do that thing where they drop out the guitars, you just get the drum beat and coming in, and it just goes pull it off so brilliantly here, and it just sounds like this is a song made to be headlining the main stage at Download Festival with an entire crowd just like arms in the air, singing along like it is like the greatest moment, and like you just get so much of it across that whole song. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that song, that is like what we were talking about with a few of the Clutch songs on that special, where we're like, oh yeah, you think it's the chorus and something else comes in. That happens like 4 or 5 times in this song. Like, it is so like it's unfair how good he is at putting these things together, and like it like this is the most ABBA they've ever sounded, more so than their ABBA cover, and it still sounds like a rock song though. It is still heavy. It still crunches. That solo you're talking about, it just it punctuates everything perfectly. This song is outstanding. Like, I've had it in my head for ages.
It is the chorus to beat so far this year, even with it having about 3 choruses. Call Me Little Sunshine has grown and grown on me, where that smoke and mirrors bluesy gate that it has. Everyone went to 90s Metallica when it was released, but I can't think of a band who has done that kind of thing and made it as big and as catchy as Ghost do here since then. Like, that riff is such a winner without being a shower. And while what I was talking about, kind of with being, increasingly less atmospheric, their records, they are. But the reason I still don't think they are losing their character to excess, I mean, many, many reasons. The quality of songwriting and kind of Tobias's real cleverness and knack with it is always there. But the music isn't as occult and heavy as it once was, no, but something so key to why Ghost has felt special from album number 1 is the jubilance and warmth linked to this subversive evil thing that they've cracked in their melodies. That warmth, finding connection with someone in the arms of Satan feeling that Ghost give me on He Is, on Monstrance Clock. The You Will Never Walk Alone section in Call Me Little Sunshine is 100% that. It's this rallying, inducted into the loving embrace of the evil church of Ghost that makes it different. And while this is very much influenced by, lots of hair metal stuff and whatnot, and it is more like a big rock record, it still has that I would say make it, for my taste, better than 95% of those things. It's just a deliciously Ghost thing. And the way they've taken those big major key melodies here and given you stuff like that and given you shit like Griftwood, where that guitar riff is so ain't talking about love, and Tobias is so just out and out, fucking ooh, I'm your rock baby, like in a song about offering you a seat by the pyre. Like, that sensation has been such a through line for Ghost, and it's been taken to these more cartoonish, excessive kind of lengths as they go on.
I mean, they've always, like, even from Opus, like, because they were never, I think people have this idea that they were, like, super evil and stuff, and while there was more atmosphere, like you said, they did always, like, even back then, I felt they balanced the kind of like the catchiness and stuff, and the 666. Like,
that's why I fucking love them. That's why
Yeah,
Opus Eponymous is like one of my absolute favorite records of all time. It's just they're taking that again out of that kind of occult atmosphere they had and just into the largest environments possible, and you hear it in the record.
It's just they are just evolving. Like, they're doing this. They are kind of just doing the same thing but bigger.
And as you go big with it, it's going to be less occult, less evil. But the fact they still keep enough of that through line, and even if it's only on like 1 or 2 songs, the fact they'll still get it there, and it feels like, say, like Call Me Little Sunshine does get a little bit spooky, and it's as spooky as you can get while sounding like a massive rock band, but it's there. There is enough of that occult evilness that shows that they've not totally turned their back on it. They are still that band that wrote Ritual like years ago. Like,
I mean, it's even there in the ballads, even though the ballads are the most fucking overblown that they've ever been. Like, He Is one of the all-time best Ghost songs, and none of the ones on here are that. But He Is sounds so modest and restrained compared to the sheer fucking,
there's a darkness at the
the bed of roses, champagne waterfall pouring from the ceiling that is Darkness at the Heart of My Love. You hear that and you just go, fuck me, he's really going for it this time, isn't he? Like, this is begging to be the fucking Every Rose Has Its Thorn or whatever, like, of its era. It's got finger snaps in it.
What? The finger snaps and the stop-start of the percussion in the first chorus, that is the thing that we bemoan so many bands doing because it sounds like Imagine Dragons, but Ghost have done it and it sounds good. It's only on that first chorus. They don't do it again, but it's really impactful, and
but
it
it's
really
still
works.
darkness at the heart of my love. It's still it's the same core, but being extrapolated further and further and further to, again, these even more cartoonish heights. Respite on the Spitalfields, I confess, it's the one song where the chorus hasn't ingrained itself into me yet.
Yeah.
And when I look at the track list, I have to strain and go, which one is that one again? But to its credit, it is the longest song on the record that's a different kind of multi-staged, thing on the record. And it starts as like unashamedly lighter in the air as anything Ghost have ever done, but then keeps building through these different stages that are like insanely dramatic. That guitar line in the outro is built for like Memory Remains style, a stadium of people belting it back, and that alone is such a moment to reach, even if I don't think the song has like the sharpest hooks that they've ever done.
No, I mean, the biggest hook in that is just the line he nicks from the final countdown with the bit where he goes, "One day he will come back from the bowels of hell." Like, that's the one bit. But yeah, I think that is one of the two songs where I'm like, oh, that's not one of the two proper songs, because there's a few interludes and like an intro. But that's one of the two where I'm like, it's good, but I think compared to the other stuff, it's a bit of an outlier. Like, I think if it ended on Griffwood, that would have done it for me.
I don't know. I think like I agree with you, but I think that works as the kind of like grand, epic, lighters in the air closing moment. It's what you would close the sort of the main portion of the set with now before the encore. It feels like it's sort of primed for that position in their live show, and I think like the whole like the Nothing Like Everlast Forever, we will go softly into the night hook. I think that's actually like legitimately quite a good hook. It's probably not up there with the level of the rest of the album, but that's because the rest of the album is just like cranked up to 11 at all times. So the moment they sort of let off that a little bit, it stands out maybe a touch more.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's a wicked, like, big closer. I was saying that it doesn't have like the standout chorus on the record, but I kind of view it. Yeah. I was having conversations with people on Twitter the last couple of days about Spirit from Meliora, which is the opener on that record, and it's like the least catchy song on the record. It's the least big and explosive song on the record, but it's still kind of a cool opener because it brings you into the world. Put something like that on the different side of the track list and make it like this cool, snaking, interesting closer, even if it's not an obvious single, which obviously it wasn't a single, so fine. Cool, good. Alec, I can only assume that the other song you were talking about that you would cut is the one that everyone has complained about. There's a reason we've left it till last. The outright weird on this record, Twenties. When this song was dropped as the last single of the bunch, before this record was released, this fucking bewildered and in some cases repulsed people. Even now, every review you see of this record goes, "It's amazing. I'm not sure about Twenties. Leave it up to your own, whether you think it deserves its place or not." Alec, am I correct in saying that that's the one you're not having?
Yeah, I don't think it's a piece of shit. I just think it sounds like it's from The Emperor's New Groove. Like,
so do you know what? I'm going to call you out.
It's exactly The Emperor's New Groove, like the literal statement. If that's what that song is embodying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to quack out because I think 20 sounds like Diablo Swing Orchestra if they were good.
Oh!
I am here to say I fucking love 20s, and
I love it.
No, I just don't. I don't want it in this. I think that's
part of just the mental, like, overblown world that this album is. I love that they just kind of have this one, like, properly, like, Tobias is this, like, weird, like, almost like dictator-esque kind of, like, character in the way he narrates the song, and they're like, "Listen up,
you motherfuckers."
Like, yeah.
I fully agree about it being part of the world of this record. And let me say, when Call Me Little Sunshine came out, and Hunter's Moon as well, as singles, I thought, particularly Call Me Little Sunshine was like a moody grower. Pretty much conversely to everyone else, I loved 20s from the very first time that I heard it. It is a lunatic song. On the interludes, like, something like Dominion isn't really needed with how brilliantly 20s kind of intros itself anyway. My hunch is that those kind of tracks are like valuable costume change moments for the live show rather than enhancing the record a great deal, but they're fine. They don't take too much away. But how mischievous 20s is in the record when those like trumpets start. It's recorded like it's like a fucking 1920s concert hall by the sound of it. It's like King Kong, but that is like a Rammstein riff on a reggaeton beat. The groove is so insistent and sticky and rhythmic, and that chorus, like, where does that come from? Like, the backing vocal, it's the 20s. Yeah, it's just tuned. It's like, hee hee. But I think it makes it. It's so eccentric and oddball, but just delirious and catchy. And, like, this song was never going to leave my head from the first time I heard it. It's straight up one of the catchiest things that Ghost have ever written, which for a lot of people is probably infuriatingly true, and they wish it wasn't. But I love it. I just heard it immediately and went like, oh my God, we're going here, and I love it. And I think it's another case where I see that Ghost character, because I think when you're as big as Ghost now are in the rock world, there are so many people who are interested, at least, in Ghost, who don't necessarily love the kind of world that they've emerged from. And there will be people out there who want them to play things straight, to be, you know, oh, you're Alter Bridge now, or, you know, fucking Metallica. Do your job and write big rock songs. Don't you have the audacity to be freakish? And Ghost, even on their fucking, you know, Hysteria record, have the audacity to be freakish. And it is one of the most Ghost things in that regard I've ever heard in my life. It's so cheeky, and like you say, Sam, taking this like fascist, rolling in avarice dictator figure, fucking rhyming ruler with moolah.
When we were grinding in a pile of moolah, I was like, yes. Moolah! As with we've grabbed them all by the hoo-has. Like,
yeah, the hoo-ha line is on the nose, and it feels like a few years late. Like, this song weirdly dropped at the time when we were all looking to another authoritarian madman in the world. But I do think for the world, this record, again, that link of the roaring 20s and the now, you know, kind of winking at those, you know, desperately dark times ahead and dancing through it on a fucking reggaeton beat, like, that is Ghost as hell. And I celebrate them doing that when no other rock band near them would have the guts or the creativity to have fun with it like that.
Yeah, like, I think, like I said, the song is, like, blatantly drawing comparisons to the sort of the rise of fascism and stuff like that in the 1920s and the 2020s because of coming out of, like, really hard times. So it's, like, it's got a purpose to it, and it's just doing it in the most over-the-top, like, camp theatrical way, and I'm so on board with it. And the fact it's just kind of, like, coming in on this album that is otherwise huge arena rock songs, I mean, it's such a great curveball to have on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like it. I don't think it's a piece of shit like most of
many
Twitter.
people listening do.
yeah, exactly. No, yeah. I enjoy it. I think that's scandalous what you said, Sam, about my special Diablo Swing orchestra. But no, I think if this record for me, if Bite of Passage, Dominion, Respite, and Twenties were gone, I think this would be my favourite Ghost album. Just because everything else on it is like just like no fat whatsoever. It's just huge, massive. Like, we've not even talked about fucking Fred Orkerson from Opeth is on guitar, just like shredding his little fingers off. Like,
even though the most Opeth Ghost song is still on the last album, weirdly, but
yeah. No, oh man, it's so good. Like, I'm happy this exists, and like, even though that's not to my taste, I'm happy that something like Twenties is on it, even though I'd rather it wasn't. Just because,
I get so excited when it comes on in the context of the record. Like, you know, we're fucking... Yeah, I'm like, yes, let's go. It's brilliant.
Just want to pull the little lever in Emperor's New Groove and go down to, what is it, the fucking cart or whatever. Yeah, it's absolutely, like, it's off the wall. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, hearing this record, like... the thing with me and Ghost is, you know, it's not often that I am so close to and passionate what is, like, you know, the big mainstream rock record of the year. But Ghost, considering where they have come from, are one of those bands. And they have gone on a trajectory which, you know, has not tested my love for them. That'd be so too strong a term for it. But it has, you know, kind of moved away from some of those things that I loved in the first place to quite so strong a degree. And I would say that, you know, this is it's the second album that's firmly in a different era of Ghost. Like, you know, we're all talking about him as Tobias rather than Papa. He's unmasked, and on Prequelle I accepted that it was gonna sound different to my very favourite older Ghost material. Like, he fired half his collaborators after Meliora. It was gonna sound different. You know, the fucking court case. We all know what Ghost is now. It's moving out of that 70s dark, further into the sun. But I am so glad to have a band just going there the way this record does, going big like this. It's the confidence to be a metal band and strut like your pop stars, the way that those 1980s giants that this is trying to emulate did. And it's to have this guy who, again, is that kind of person with those kind of roots, going to do that. Like, yeah, the production isn't as gutsy and biting as it could be, and maybe it once was, but it's still a rock record that fucking sparkles with an ambition like nothing else around it. Like, this is one of the biggest dreaming records that we've had in, well, I would say the last fucking decade of rock music.
Yeah, they all sound, they sound like classics. Like Griffwood, the riff opening that, it sounds like something that's been in my head like since I was born. It sounds like it's been around for like 40 years or something. Like, it sounds classic. And
well, it sounds like Ain't Talking About Love, which is why,
yeah,
but
I understand. Yeah, exactly.
I agree, yeah.
All the songs on this do, like, pretty much. And like, if this band are not headlining Download in 2023, like, we've failed, because like, who they've got everything. Like, they've got the theatre and stuff of like a Kiss or Iron Maiden. They've got like the kind of riffs and the crunch of the heft of a Metallica or something. They've got the kind of excess of your kind of your Motley Crue or your Poison or your Whitesnake or whatever. Like, I don't know what else they can do.
And you think across these 5 albums out, like the set list they could put together, you'd be raving about that. Like 2 hours
are making me cry, man.
Yeah, like, but that's it. You got to think, well, they'd cut now. But yeah, I was going to mention, like, so much of this album already sounds so timeless, and I think that is the sort of the strength to this record in particular. I think it's their most timeless sounding record because a lot of it does sound quite vintage in a way. Like it does sound like it's ripped straight from the 70s or 80s, but that just makes it sound like you've heard these songs before. Like,
it sounds like it's that made contemporary.
Yeah, the moment you hear those keys come in at the start of Spillways, you feel like this is something like iconic. That is, you've been hearing this for years, but it's just this new Ghost song. But yeah, I'm so like on board with this record, and I know, like, you're right, they have moved away from the Spooky Crypt a little bit too far now, because they kind of have to.
I don't want to say too far, because I don't think they have. It's just, it's an objective analysis of their music. They have. Yeah. Whether you say that's too far or not is a different question. They are going fucking huge.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think they've had to move that far away from it to be the band they are now. I'm not saying that as a complaint. I can.
It's a natural progression.
That's it. It doesn't feel like they've kind of like abandoned who they were, and like that they've had to sort of grow into this bigger band, and it's paid off brilliantly for them.
Yeah, and there are so many Ghost characteristics that are so, uniquely them, that are in it. The fact that they will do 20s, the fact that they will do, songs that kind of have that, again, kind of subversive, love in the dark feel of Call Me Little Sunshine, or what, how they handle Griftwood, those kind of things. And Alec, I know that you sometimes are a little bit, you kind of bemoan the fact that Ghost aren't as massive as they should be, but we need to look at the fact they are making strides upon strides. We talk about Prequelle being like, oh my god, they're going to play arenas. This is the record that they're going to play the O2 with,
right?
Which, like, that's about the level that you start really going, like, oh, are they going to really fucking go over the top? And you listen to this and you go, you've made the record to play the O2 with.
Yeah, no, that is, I think the reason why I just get a bit pissy about it is because, like, Alter Bridge have played the O2, 2 or 3 times or something? Like, not saying Alter Bridge should, I think Ghost are far more interesting than Alter Bridge. Not that they're bad. The point.
Alter Bridge are not as difficult, and they won't fucking put 20s in front of people and go, make what you will of that.
yeah, exactly. But they make something a lot more digestible and palatable and stuff, and they are playing the O2, and they are not, they're the forever... the kind of sub headliner at Download, and it's like, what does a band have to do like nowadays to actually do that? Because, like, when the big headliners like your Rammsteins and your Metallicas and your Slipknots and all that are gone, it's like a band like Ghost is playing the same arenas as a Slipknot, like, just fucking book them.
Yeah, I agree, and obviously that's such a large question that we've discussed so many times about kind of like, what does a band have to do to step into some of these kind of larger spaces when they've seemingly done all of the fucking groundwork and they just don't get the shot. But I think Ghost, while they are more difficult and more unique than some of the bands who are in these large spaces, like we said at the start about the kind of the amount of people that Ghost have gotten on board with them by this point, the amount of people who the people who don't listen to this fucking podcast and track the kind of bands that we do, who go, oh yeah, Ghost, I'm all on board with them. I think now, they just played on fucking Jimmy Kimmel again. Like, it seems like they've done that a million times now, like last night. They are so visible now, and the appeal is so broad. And there is, this kind of satanic push in popular media with everyone from Lil Nas X to, Megan Thee Stallion's latest video. She had fucking like accusations of Satanism thrown at her for doing some like horror imagery. Drink it all up. I think like Prequelle, it's not my favourite Ghost record by any means at all. Nowhere near realistically when I look at my own tastes. But I think it's going to do very, very well for them indeed. And I've got hope and I've got assurance with Impera that this isn't going to be a missed opportunity record. I think that. Yeah.
All grist for the mill of the thirsty mums on the Legion of Ghost Facebook page. Have you seen that?
I've not seen that specific one, but I have seen intense fucking Ghost stan accounts and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, mate. So many like kind of people my mum's age just like drooling over Tobias, going, "Oh my god, Papa!" Or the director, as he was called as well at one point. Strange, but yeah. Like again, people like that just like you go on pages like that, and there's just like all these like quote unquote normal looking mums just like crushing on a man dressed as the Pope.
The man dressed as a rotting corpse version of the Pope. What a fucking world we live in when this is one of the bands who are doing these kind of things. I fully embrace it. Impera by Ghost, I'm sure you have your own opinions on it well formed already, but there is ours.